everyone loves a good shortcut. Mario with its frame counting, Dark Souls with death camera, or Trackmania with its insane nosebugs. Each game has them, and BeamNG is no different. I could spend hours breaking down every tiny corner cutting trick, but that's not why you are here. You are here for the most unreal, adrenaline-inducing and blood-freezing skips that can be performed in the game with a very high degree of realism. So buckle up, cause right now I will show you how players have destroyed physics in BeamNG. Before we start, let me clarify something. Each skip will be featuring one car, but two tunes. Actually, it's not even the tune itself, but one part of it. JATO, or Jet Assisted Takeoff. Well, I think you already know where I'm heading with it. But in the last couple of months, speedrunning community has turned into a full-blown JATO-obsessed monster, asking one simple question: what else can we break with JATO? And because of it, a lot more new skip ideas were implemented. Sadly, players have found out that one vehicle is simply better than others for JATO, and it's the Gavril D series, with no useless weight, who needs an engine anyway, and in some cases, who even needs wheels. The only real catch with the D series is fuel amount, only 12 seconds instead of the usual 20 with other JATO vehicles. But I guess it didn't stop anyone from pulling off stunts that I will show you right now. So let's start with something that was destroyed not by speed, but by pure math, cause you know, it saves so much. Easy Skycurve has never been easy, and it was already broken before with a massive long jump straight to the finish. So what changed? Well, not much actually. Despite the D series being worse than the Scintilla in almost every way, acceleration isn't one of them, which led to the discovery of very specific bonk skip. It is performed with very low speed, especially for such skip. Imagine starting speed of only 100 kilometers. JATO is responsible for keeping vehicle on the pace and getting to the checkpoint, and then a huge luck check. Because at that point, only the BeamNG gods decide whether you make it to the finish or fail completely. Luckily, the finish checkpoint is massive, which helps a ton. So, what's the reward from this rather weird skip? A ridiculous 2-second time save, and honestly, this is probably nowhere near the max potential for this map and this skip. Track editor tracks are a home for a number of cool looking and massively skippable tracks, but I did speak about most of this in my previous video, so for now let's focus on one that was improved. You can even say it was turned into one big skip, Offroad. Before, it featured two skips that, and let's be honest here, were unreal. Those were hard to pull off and usually required a lot of attempts to even get close to the world record time. And now it's worse. 3 skips, each with more RNG than the previous. Why bother with trying to perform the first jump backwards when you can just use JATO and jump straight to the other side? And why suffer due to lack of speed and wasting precious seconds when JATO offers instant acceleration? Second skip is RNG heavy, but that doesn't mean it's not overpowered. The last one, truth be told, doesn't heavily depend on luck, but sadly, last 2 shortcuts probably left car rather damaged, which leads to some problems. 3 skips back to back. Is there something harder? You bet. Not just harder, but most of the times nearly impossible without spending quite a bit of hours on the map. Let's talk about Sawmill, part of the East Coast USA. Quite some time has passed since I first encouraged Wulp to go for this record, and oh boy, turns out Haiku's 17.2 second run was weak. Yeah, you heard that right. This beautiful little rally track got completely obliterated. After plenty of back and forth over what setup worked best and some absolutely insane runs, one thing became clear. The car setup was not ideal. And you know what the problem was? Back wheels. Now, I have no idea how someone even figures that out, but hey, when the goal is speed, nothing beats the human capacity to grind. I guess the only thing missing here is car being red, cause everyone knows red is faster. This skip is easy to understand but brutal to pull off, especially since, you know, no back wheels. The current world record is 10.8 seconds, and it can still go lower with a better line and less airtime. Some say a sub 10 is possible, and honestly, I fully expect to see it soon, especially with how obsessed obsessed the community is with pushing skips like this to the limit. The automation test track is packed with maps that have insane skip potential, and the best ones are still ahead. But first, let's talk about Hillclimb 1, a challenge that is both unique and surprisingly tricky. Using a rocket to go uphill might sound ridiculous, especially with limited fuel, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. And thanks to the sparse checkpoints, runners discovered two key skips that make this time trial worth mentioning. The first skip, a field run right at the start, is a massive time saver and isn't too difficult to pull off. But the second skip, that's the real reason this map made the list. It's a jump into a drift, leading into another jump. Pure style and precision. And compared to the previous world record, this vehicle takes a completely different path through the terrain, making it way faster. And now let's get to the juicy stuff, the creme de la creme. And it's this. Now that you have seen it, you can't unsee it. Now let me explain something about this run, and to some extent the next two I'm about to cover. This automation track skip is possible due to one simple reason. The racetrack circuit has only 3 checkpoints. I don't know why or how, but for some reason choosing a rolling start on this map unlocks a ridiculous number of shortcuts. Just look at the top run before JATO got involved, already skipping almost right at the start. And then again with really cool and hard jump. Now of course, our lovely D series takes things even further. But don't forget, it only has 12 seconds of fuel, and half of that is needed just to reach the finish. That means every skip of this track is tight. This is not an easy run to pull off. Failures are common, and success demands perfect driving and perfect setup. This is indeed a pure skill track with almost zero RNG, except maybe at liftoff. Next up is Utah Time Trial. Similar in nature but wildly different in style. Fewer skips, more turns, and yet one big hit at the end. Meet Asphalt Hillclimb, which, as you might have guessed, becomes one long downhill if taken in reverse. That doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, I'd say it's even harder than the last one. If you are thinking of trying it, forget everything you know about asphalt driving. This is a whole different beast. Managing speed here is mandatory, and taking turns aggressively is essential. Expect huge drifts and massive speed loss, but don't worry, JATO's got your back. And then the final check. Actually, this time it's a full-blown RNG check. While the racetrack had a bigger ramp and more setup room, this one is the complete opposite. Sure, you have got more fuel, but lining up the car perfectly nearly impossible, especially since the jump requires taking 2 checkpoints back to back. And just so everyone will understand, this 36.7 second run took 8 hours of non-stop grinding from one of the best players in the scene, Era Gaming. Yep, 8 hours on a track that lasts 40 seconds. Feel free to do the math on how many runs that is. And finally, the coolest skip of them all. This one is simply the best. Why? Because it's the perfect mix of RNG and skill. Welcome to Derby Arenas. Surprisingly, I have never talked about this map before, but today it's all about to change with one time trial, the Big 8. On the surface is just dirt and hills, doesn't exactly scream jet-powered vehicles, right? Well, that's where you'd be wrong, because the one hill is all JATO needs. This skip is brutal. You have to launch with perfect speed, land cleanly, and somehow keep control. It's not just a simple flight to the finish. The landing matters here, and after that, you still need to preserve speed, manage fuel, and pull off perfect turns on rough, bumpy terrain. This mix of pure difficulty and BeamNG's soft body madness is exactly why it stands out. No other jump skip feels quite hard and unique as this one. And that's it, 7 insane skips. Sure, some might say, only 7? But come on, these were some Trackmania level skips in a game built entirely around realistic physics. How cool is that? Thanks for watching. Drop a like, leave a comment on your favorite skip, and hey, subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll see you all in a week.